0876-858-9553 is the WhatsApp number. 954-635-8732 is the Zelle account. And wow, you can use that number to contribute to the podcast that is now live. We're going to Harry next. 23 minutes to 9 o'clock. We have 23 minutes left on the program. 23 minutes left on the program in this segment with Harry. Harry, good evening to you, sir. Good evening, Harry. Hi.
Evening, neighbor. Evening, neighbor, right? Scratchy Caroline.
How are you doing? Had a great day?
It was a productive day, neighbor.
Harry, let's go in with the results of the poll. There are 5 questions. If you could help me to just share them with the listeners. The first question is, and this is not a scientific poll, but I'm not going to reveal to the listeners the process yet, but it is pretty in line with a lot of what we have been seeing. The pollsters asks the following questions. Let me go down here and see if I can get. Hold on, let me go up here. Who won the budget debate? And the poll result is 56-44 in favor of Favour Williams. 56% to 44%. What do you think about that?
I think, neighbor, for that one, I think people are being rather generous to Julian Robinson when you compare it to Favour. But I think one of the major things is that how Minister Favour delivers, I think Jamaica has not yet warmed up to that type of delivery. And as such, a lot of things that would have been said would have, missed quite a number of persons. And of course, Julian came with a lot of theatrics and so on, neighbor. Because if you look at it, persons would mistake the hype and the vibes aspect of things for Julian compared to Favour. Favour was more somber, neighbor. We didn't hear a lot of desk beating when she was delivering. We had a lot more persons listening with intent, right? While when you look at Julian Robinson, it was almost like, beating of desk and so on for support, because there was no real applicability in any recommendations being provided. So I think that would have also influenced the numbers.
But at 12 point lead is pretty impressive.
It is. It definitely is, neighbor. But I think in terms of the overall thing, when you look at the substance of it, it would have been a little wider.
Okay. The second question is, who do you believe would make the better finance minister? Williams 54, Robinson 46. What do you think about that?
An 8 point. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a little closer than expected or anticipated, neighbor. Because when you look at it, and I would have alluded to it a little earlier, the recommendations and the substance that you'd expect from a finance minister, you didn't get much of that from a Julian Robinson. In fact, you didn't get a fully thought out process for implementation. But again, I think in terms of, because he came up a lot stronger, the tone seemed as if it was more positive, the posturing as well, as opposed to Minister Favour. I think a lot of that would have passed people. But if we're actually to go through everything that was there, Of course, neighbor, the fact that a new tax would have come into play.
Yes.
You know, persons
may have played on people's mind.
Right. It would have brought a little closer than it ought to, because I can tell you, neighbor, if she had come and said there's no new taxes, I don't know what Julian would have gotten for his numbers.
What are they spoken about?
Right. So they would have paraded on it and gained a little bit more room, and I think a little bit more favorability for people. But of course, again, if you dissect both budget speeches, you would have seen that it's a little bit too close for comfort, even though an 8-point gap in this case is still big enough.
The third question was, based on the presentations, whose budget proposals seem more realistic and achievable? The most realistic budget, 58 Williams, 42 Robinson, a 16-point lead.
This one it was expected for many, but I would have said yes. So I think we're all along the same lines in terms of what we expected. Because of course the stuff that Julian Robinson would have put forward are more medium to long term, which didn't sit well to combat what is required and what is necessity for a budget coming out of a crisis and dealing with a global, a geopolitical issue. For him, it came off a lot more as if he's looking along further down the road. And as such, it's not something applicable to Jamaica right now. So Minister Favour would definitely have gotten better marks here, because she was looking in terms of what they need to do, how to strengthen the economy, so we can then look in terms of the recovery. And of course, we know, neighbor, the Minister of Finance would actually have the upper hand because she's government.
Correct. The fourth question: who do you trust more to manage Jamaica's economy? And the finance minister has a 15-point lead, 55 to 45.
Again, definitely this is one in which I expected her to be on top, because she would have been a part of the proven team and also now have proven herself in terms of the management of the economy, neighbor. Again, in terms of persons wouldn't have necessarily like her style, but what they can't debate about is that her numbers speaks for itself, while the opposition would have looked in terms of, pontifying themselves when it comes on to going around and saying things that may seem good. And one of the things that would have also played a big part, neighbor, was the fact that the opposition minister of finance, coming from the election as well, they couldn't really tell the people how they would have done the 3.5 million plan. And as such, that had some form of bearing when it comes on to trust for the people.
All right. So in essence, Harry, the even with not flamboyant style, the finance minister is coming out way ahead of the opposition spokesman on finance. The fact of the matter is that the government does have the advantage when it comes on to budget debates in either sense, eh?
Definitely they do, neighbor.
Yes, and that it's not only style but substance. Do you not find it though that it is interesting that Jamaicans are more focusing now on substance rather than style? Is that not an interesting thing that we should commend our people for?
It is one in which we have to appreciate the improvement in intellectual capacity, neighbor, and emotional intelligence, because I'm very big on the latter, right? Because I don't think you need an extremely high education to have that level of emotional intelligence to decipher what is necessarily needed. And it was about time, to be honest, that our people, started to see things for what they are. It took a little while for us to get to this stage, and it will get better in the near future. But I think we have to, give the people of Jamaica grace, because it's very hard to to let people be a part of this process, knowing what their experiences have been in the past, neighbor, how it has shaped the psychological aspect of them. Remember, because back in the days, even early 2000s, neighbor, nobody wanted to hear anything about a budget debate, much less understanding what was said and how it will impact them. Now we're seeing a lot more of that being done. People look forward actually to the budget debate, especially over the last decade. That's something we have to give the people grace for. We have to also give them credit for that, neighbor, because they could have easily continued on the same trajectory, but it shows that there's a shift in wanting to understand the economics of the country and what is happening in terms of governance, to see how best the people themselves can take advantage of and position themselves to also take advantage of any potential opportunities coming their way.
Okay, so according to the modeled responses that we have, one of the strongest advantages for Williams was in the perception of realism. Realism beats ambition here. And that tells us something important, because voters are asking what can actually be done, not just what sounds good. Isn't that fascinating that realism is part of what the Jamaican people have now accepted? They are looking at what is real. You can't trick them again, eh?
What is the reality there, neighbor? What is required, especially
Yes.
the immediate time into medium to long term? I think one of the things that have happened is that they've been scarred for so long with promises, neighbor, with sweet talks and all of that. And the thing that has caused that in itself is, for years things have been said, and when it comes on to being delivered, it's either not been delivered or it is half done. But as people look at it now to say, hey, we've been promised so many things and it never really matriculated. Now we're seeing over the last decade, anything that is said to us, we get to understand it. We see how it is applicable to the now, how it will have an impact to drive us forward. And as such, people have now started to gravitate to that method and gravitate to that type of information and trying to understand it, because it is not an easy feat seeing where we're coming from, to see people now wanting to know this information, neighbor, and not just know it, but want for you to actually prove that it is going to impact their reality now and not 10, 15 years down the line when they aren't sure. And what has also happened that I've seen with the Ministry of Finance is that they have now tied in any short-term activities with medium to long-term goals, which doesn't deviate from the overall goal in mind that the people also have for themselves. And as such, and they're looking to say, listen, this is what you put forward. We've seen how it can help us, going forward, and as such, we're going to stick with it.
Okay, so the debate really, the country leaned towards what felt grounded, not just critical. And to me, this is very impressive. It shows that the democracy is maturing, where people are not just listening for sound bites. And remember, Harry, that the PNP led a very, very, very aggressive public relations campaign. Mr. Robinson was all over the place. Yet the people are saying, we feel that the budget presented by the government is the better one. And they have said that in the poll. I think that is impressive.
Of course it is, neighbor. It is one in which, let me bring it down to an example. When you go to the range, you have different type of weapons to use, right? And the Minister Favour would have more gone for a rifle, neighbor, in which she's not about to waste any shot. So whatever target she lines upon, she's going to be very clinical and surgical on, while the opposition came with a lot of those old type of weapons, neighbor, the Gatling machine weapon that just sprays all over the place. You say a lot of things hoping something stick. But the people have realized that, listen, we need an impact. We need the impact now. We need one that is going to be very surgical, one that is going to get to the root of the issue. And the issue and the reality of the issue is that we're coming out of a major disaster.
Yes.
And as such, when we look at it, we want somebody who is focused to deal with what is at hand and not what they think is at hand, neighbor.
Yes.
And that is the reality of the current situation. So they realize, barring the style and the delivery of Minister Favour, they do understand that she has the best interest at heart for Jamaicans. In fact, she ensured she didn't burden the least in terms of most vulnerable people in the country, for sure. And she doubled down on that. They also didn't take away, neighbor. When you look at the threshold, they actually increased as well, the minimum wage. So it showed that while they're doing what is necessary, whatever that was there and that was made a commitment to do, still was done for the greater part. And that is something, people appreciate. They realize that, and as such, the confidence in those actions taken by the administration coming into this budget debate and beyond, neighbor, would have given the people even more confidence to stick with what is there.
To close the debate tomorrow, trust Harry is quiet but decisive. Here is where the debate was really won, based on the online poll that we did. Not in the loud moments, not in the sharp exchanges, but in the quiet calculation happening in the minds of listeners. Who do I trust with the economy? And that is where I think the PNP is really going to have a difficult time. Because as the data suggests, that for now, trust leans towards the Jamaica Labour Party government, Harry. And that's why Williams is winning. Not overwhelmingly, not passionately, but enough. And in politics, Harry, enough wins debate. The people trust the party more than the PNP.
Definitely, neighbor. In fact, as I said, she would have earned it. She would have delivered. Hence why she has earned it, neighbor. And the thing about it is that people need to understand numbers aren't loud.
Yes.
Finance isn't something you want a lot of noise around, right? It is something you want to be very focused on. You want to be very strategic. And those things, neighbor, does not happen in a market environment. It doesn't happen where there's a lot of noise, because you have to ensure that you get it right. And in order to get it right, it is not just to do it for now. Those numbers, those policies, those actions to be taken have to actually be linked with the coming years, because you don't want to put something in place that sounds good now and then derails anything that you have to do in the future. And that was one of the most beautiful thing that the administration have had on their hand. That's something Minister Favour has been committed to. Unlike, what the opposition have also missed the tone as to what a Minister of Finance should be doing. You don't come with theatrics, you don't come with gimmickry, you don't come with a lot of vibes kind of things, because anybody who is in finance, anybody who does accounting and those kind of stuff are never ever the loudest persons, because you have to also understand that in silence is how you get people to understand what is being put forward to them, especially in a young economy like Jamaica, neighbor. And Jamaica is a very young country, and I always like to say to people, give the people of Jamaica grace, give yourself grace, because we're very young. We're just 63. We're not reaching nowhere yet. Right? And for people to know, trying to relearn, and some people is just actually learning, so it's not even relearn how an economy works. It is one you have to take your time. You have to slow down, right? You have to engage and ensure that you understand every single step before you go ahead to take an action. I think the opposition finance minister would have missed that big time, because he came with a lot of, chest out, kind of almost boastful in some way, neighbor. The plans put forward weren't well thought out. We saw the difference between Minister Favour, for example, the insurance and also the pension plan, how she would have gotten money that is here already to be acted, to take some form of action, right? When you look at the opposition now, it is putting things in place that they aren't sure how it will apply. They don't know the time frame. They don't involve fully the actual sector that needs to be empowered. And as such, the people of Jamaica saw right through that gimmickry, neighbor, and as such, they're sticking to the course with Minister Favour.
Okay, here is a structural challenge, Harry, and I want to be fair. It's not just about performance. The opposition has a hill to climb, one that is shaped by history, by perception, and by the lingering doubt about their economic stewardship. And I spoke to Scratchy about this. I'll deal with this in the notes tonight. So even when they make strong arguments, they face an invisible question. Can we trust you to manage it better? And until that question is fully answered in the minds of the people, every debate that starts slightly up the hill for the PNP, Harry.
Of course, and it goes a little deeper than that, neighbor. I don't think the people of Jamaica even reach to the question to say, can they trust them better? It is, can they trust them at all?
Or at
right?
all.
Because what they've done in a neighbor is they've scarred the people of Jamaica in such a way that they don't know what to trust that comes from that side. Right? And what that does is you've now put people in a manner where they can't take you for your word, one. Two, they don't know if you are coming with something with an underlying issue. That's two. And three, they don't know if you even are doing it to advance them or advancing a specific group. So those are three things in which the people of Jamaica have now realized that, listen, we don't really know what you're coming with. And as such, we can't even ask if you will be better. What we want to know is, are you even a viable option at all for yourself, much less for us in Jamaica? Because they have now ruined a line in terms of government, neighbor, that the current administration has taken a decade to try and repair. And it wasn't even them that caused the issue. They have a good track record. But people look at it to say this is still government. And it was one set of people that formed government at the time that hurt them. And as such, they will see it. So now that is the current case, and they're starting to trust the process. They're being involved a lot more. They're getting a lot more transparency. They're seeing accountability being taken. And as such, even within that short time of a decade, they've seen more that they're willing to accept and facilitate when compared to what the People's National Party have done to them in the past. And before they can take any step and to think in terms of fiscally and financially that the People's National Party is an option, they have to at least apologize and try to correct what was happening then to make themselves better. And then when they do come to the table, neighbor, they have to now ensure that they can show the people that we're putting you first, right? We don't have any underlying issue. We're not looking to try and deceive you, because a lot of deceit has happened in governance from the People's National Party that hurt the most vulnerable people, neighbor. It has hurt people who are now just trying to recover from that abysmal time. And as such, people don't want to even see them so they can think of that time. They want to ensure and at least try to enjoy the brief prosperity that they're getting now. They want to preserve it as long as they can, right? And as such, the opposition have to now work on themselves holistically in order to be a viable option to take over the country from an economical standpoint, from a fiscal standpoint, and now they face the battle, neighbor, of trying to prove themselves. And it doesn't mean that it will work or it will be done in any short time. And that is a battle they have, that is more than a hill, neighbor, that is climbing Mount Everest. And they have a daunting task to prove to the people of Jamaica while being opposition before they can become government again, to have the responsibility of the people of the nation.
Yeah. So Val has flavor. With her quiet demeanor, she was able to overcome and even won this debate. As I said to you, Harry, we're living in very, very interesting times, and the people of Jamaica are definitely growing politically. And I think that there are programs like this and others and media generally that are helping to dissect and help Jamaica to think through these issues. Harry, people are more informed. I was talking to a young lady today in Portmore, in your city, and while I was talking to her, she was on her phone researching what I was saying. I wonder if you know what I think about what I was saying to her. She was on her phone researching as I was speaking. Whatever I was saying, she never take it for gospel. She look on it and find out if what I was saying was true. That's the world we live in.
And that is a beautiful thing about it, neighbor. Putting what you have at in terms of your resources at use. That is beautiful, because gone are the days, neighbor, people trusted hearsay, people trusted word of mouth, and they got burnt repeatedly. Right? And I think they've learned, specifically this generation, for the most part, and it has been something that has passed down from the survivors of the 90s, neighbor, when it comes on to it, because they would have grown up to see what has happened to their parents and grandparents, and they don't want to fall in the same trap. And as such, they will want to utilize any form of resources they can, especially now we're in a technologically advanced era, the most advanced there has ever been for humankind. And as such, they're putting it to use to at least being able to not just fact check what is being said, but to understand at a greater level than ever before in terms of generations before them. And they know what they will do, neighbor, because that conversation didn't just finish with the individual. I can guarantee you that they went ahead after it has ended, probably even tonight if they're listening, and gone to see how what was said can actually benefit me, how it can impact me going forward.
And quite frankly, even as people listen to us at night, Harry, if what we are saying is not factual, they can fact check us,
Always. And a neighbor, I've always pushed for that. Anything, especially anything I say, I always let them say, listen, go ahead and fact check us, because I have a reputation to uphold. And Politics Plus wants to also always ensure we don't play with our research, neighbor.
Not at all. Absolutely not. No, Harry. The Wholeness did tremendously better with his numbers than Williams. Williams is coming out 12 points, 8 points, 16 points ahead of Robinson. Very impressive. But the Prime Minister did even much better. Now, when you look at Williams's performance ahead of Robinson, and then you look at Wholeness way ahead of Golding, you see that the Labour Party seem to be in the ascendancy as it relates to the economy, which is a powerful tool for electoral success, Harry, because the economy is where everything flows from. It appears as if the Jamaica Labour Party strength lies in the trust of the people in its ability to manage the economy.
It is, neighbor, 100%, because here's the thing with it. The people have seen them on exhibition before in 2020 with the pandemic, right? And this has been a whole different experience for the people, and as such, they're banking on it. They've realized now that even in a harsh times, because let's not fool ourselves, what happened in 2020, neighbor, stopped the world, right? And we were still able to keep our economy going, right? We still saw, as minuscule as the growth may want to seem by the opposition, it is one in which we have gone ahead to ensure that we've grown the NIR. They've given back to the people at $1.16 billion, right? And that was not something they've ever seen before, even in better times. And as such, they have grown in that area, and the trust in terms of have been grown. And in fact, people are giving them more responsibilities more than ever, because as the standard goes higher, people are demanding more. The quality has to be better. The bar has to go higher each time as more desires, as more dreams are placed on the backs of the administration. And it's a beautiful problem to have in a neighbor, when you're a government that is looking to drive your country forward. So make no mistake about it, when people are saying, oh, for example, I hear the whole increase in terms of the wage, the minimum wage. Persons are saying if $17,000 is anything, $1,000 going on. But when you put it into context and understand what is being done, it never had to be done, neighbor, right? And to see they're able to do it, compare that to the times when we had a way better chance in terms of the growth. And when you work it out for inflation and so on, it wasn't even close. What they're getting now is superior to the best time then, and we're now facing both geopolitical issue and the loss of 56% of our GDP, which has never been done before. And as such, they are going ahead to act as if it's something we're managing very well. So that is something we have to understand.
Yeah. All right. Want to thank you, Harry.